Hey, welcome to Refocused Radio. Once again, we are here today, and today we have another show lineup for y'all. Today, we're going to be talking about a book with book author Denise. She has an amazing story, but also you can get her book. It's a great novel. It's about Among the Stars. It's the title. You can get it on Amazon right now. It's all about captivating young adult readers everywhere, and the characters in the book, they are going to be entertaining, and you're going to love the storyline in between. It's all about Denise weaving in and out of romance and mystery into a gripping tale of love, loss, and self-discovery. Now, without further ado, I want to welcome you, Denise, to the show and say, how are you doing today?
Oh, I'm doing well. Thank you for having me.
Well, I appreciate you spending some time with us today. When it comes to the book, let's start out first. What inspired you to start the project? Because I know when we meet the main characters, Natalie Baker and also Justin Sanders, that's just a piece of the pie. So what was the background story of what inspired you to write the book?
So this story actually stemmed from a creative writing class in college that I took. They asked me to kind of come up with a fictional book, the first few chapters of a fictional book. And so that was the beginning of this story. At that time, it was very different. The setting, even the characters' professions were very different at that time. And it wasn't until about 10 years later, after graduating from college, and now it was actually after we had my first child, my son, when he was napping. That was when I actually revisited the story that I wrote in college, and basically edited it, changed it up, and finished it completed it into a complete story. And that was the beginning of this final version that is out for publication, or that has been published. And so the story itself was, I basically was inspired by my brother. My brother had passed away about 5 years ago. And so this story was essentially a way to honor him and kind of celebrating some of the memories that I've had with him, looking back on those fondly. And through this story, which does touch on the topic of grief and loss of loved ones, I hope to resonate with other people who have lost someone dear to them, as well as incorporating other themes of hope, redemption, and forgiveness throughout this story as well.
When you developed the character Natalie Baker, the story begins with a tragic fishing accident. Why did you choose this event as the catalyst for her journey?
So it's actually very similar to my own journey with losing my brother. I can relate to that because grief is a very complicated process. It's not straightforward, and oftentimes we go through a series of emotions, obviously sadness, but sometimes even anger or confusion. And so, like Natalie, I myself had gone through a variety of different emotions when I had lost my brother. And there was that time after the funeral when I basically had to figure out what my new normal was going to look like. And it was a very, very challenging process to kind of basically moving forward from that. Trying to realize what is my life going to look like without my brother. And so similarly with Natalie, she had lost her father and had to figure out her next steps after losing her her family member. And so the story starts with the tragic loss, but then is also a chance for Natalie to just kind of go through a journey of self-discovery with the help of her friends.
And also the character Justin Sanders. He's introduced as Natalie's childhood friend and the recipient of her first kiss. How does their relationship evolve as she uncovers the truth about her father's death?
So she and Justin were actually friends before before she lost her father, and so they had a lot of positive, cherished memories together. And she ends up revisiting or reconnecting with him, rather, at least 13 years later after the loss of her father, and that is when they are in very different places from when they were young teenagers. When now Natalie is a resident doctor and Justin ends up being a famous actor. So very different worlds, very different experiences. And so at that time, they they reconnect, and that is they have the past that they share together, but also moving forward, they're looking toward the future to see what are their wants and who do they want in their lives.
Once again, you're listening, watching us online on Refocused Radio, talking to our guest Denise, and all about her book, Among the Stars, that you can get right now on Amazon. When you look at how you describe the story as both heartfelt and haunting, what was your approach as an author and writer to balancing these tones and to keep the readers emotionally invested?
So when it comes to themes, I definitely wanted to touch on deeper themes with the theme of hope, that basically there's always hope to be found no matter how tough the circumstances might be, as well as the theme of forgiveness, that we, as well as forgiving other people, it's important that we forgive ourselves, allowing ourselves to let go of any guilt of past regrets that we might have. But I also wanted to touch on lighter things, and that I have nostalgia as a powerful motif throughout the story, which the story actually takes place 10 years ago. So it is actually kind of a nostalgia piece, where we can kind of appreciate our memories, looking back at some of our cherished memories and the people that we enjoyed them with. And as well as I wanted to incorporate humor throughout the story, because especially remembering my late brother, he was a very positive person and had a very contagious sense of humor. So I wanted to kind of honor that spirit of humor throughout the book.
And also, when you look at mystery and how that was a key component in the book, Among the Stars, without giving spoilers, we want to make sure people go to Amazon and get a copy of this. How can you tease one of the twists of the fate that surprised even you as an author writing this?
So when it comes to mystery, I've always enjoyed stories where they kind of keep you on the edge of your seat with the suspense and plot twists. And I think when you combine that with heartfelt romance, with character romantic subplots, I think that the combination of those two, those elements, makes for a very compelling story, and especially when it comes to a family mystery. So for me, that was a pretty big motivator. That's the kind of book I would want to pick up on a bookshelf, having both of those elements together.
When you look at how self-discovery is the center of Natalie's journey, what do you hope when a person picks up the book will be able to appreciate from not just her character, but learning about themselves through her own story?
So when it comes to what, I guess, when you pick up the book, what do you want to be kept with after? I think it's important to be inspired to write your own story. For me, with the grieving journey, with losing my brother, it was a very therapeutic process to kind of go through, to write some of the emotions I was dealing with through writing. I think that definitely provided some healing for me. And so for anyone who has lost a loved one or is going through a really tough time, I think writing is a very, very therapeutic and just a positive way to kind of go through, to allow yourself to experience those feelings and experience that growth or that healing journey. And I would encourage anyone to just beginning to write like a sentence a day or whatever comes to mind. Just not being afraid to write.
And speaking of not being afraid to write, when someone's looking at their own story, their own journey, coming back to the connection with Natalie, the character, your book also focuses on, her heart being the key to finding truth. How do you believe Natalie was successful to do this in this story? And how do you believe readers can be able to appreciate that with their own journey?
When it comes to your own journey, I think everyone has their own process to go through. But I think it very much is important to kind of looking back at the past, seeing how far we've come, I think is one key, goal that I've had, or not so much goal, but something that I always strive to do is looking back and seeing how far I've come. Even in my personal life, over the past 5 years, I've gone through tremendous growth, even with just my husband and me. We've moved from one part of the country. We were in California, and now we live in Idaho. And since then, since our move, we've had 2 kids, and I've published this book and I've actually transitioned from my accounting profession to now full-time stay-at-home mom and author. So just even looking at that growth that I've made has inspired me to move forward and giving me hope that even when I don't know what's going to happen in the future, that we are a lot stronger than what we think. And so similarly in my book, the characters have also kind of have gone through tremendous growth, and just even looking at the progress that we've made in the past can give us inspiration for the future.
You listen on Refocused Radio and watching us online, talking to our guest Denise and her book that you can get on Amazon right now, Among the Stars. When you kind of reflect back on your process as a writer, putting the book together, were there any particular scenes or characters in the book that were challenging at times to write? And if so, how did you use that grit and wisdom to overcome those dry spells, if you will?
I definitely would say writing descriptions about settings, that always was challenging because it's sometimes hard to put that into words. Sometimes it's easier just to like take a snapshot of it, and it's much easier to look at a photograph versus trying to illustrate that through words. So that was something I definitely had to return to anytime I had a setting or scenes about settings. But then I did kind of utilize the idea of looking at it as a photograph, as a snapshot, and wanting to kind of share with my readers what do I experience when I see like a beautiful lake, for instance, because the setting or the book takes place in a lake town in Idaho. So when I take walks on the lake, what do I see and what do I experience, and what senses, like using my sense of sight or hearing or smell, like what am I going through? How am I experiencing that setting with using my different senses? And so that's been kind of a way I've kind of gotten through that writer's block, I guess you could call it. That's probably the most challenging part of the writing for me personally.
And when you were putting the book into its final stage, did you have a title prior to writing, or did the title come to you eventually? What was the process for you to phrase Among the Stars? Because it kind of invokes a sense of wonder. So how were you able to narrow down the magic title for the book?
So actually, I had it had been a little while, or throughout probably about halfway through the book, I hadn't actually finalized the title. I knew I wanted to use something about stars, but then I came across it was an expression, I think it was Oscar Wilde who had said it, about shoot for the moon. Even if you miss, you'll land among the stars. I realized that spoke to me, and actually I incorporated that into the book because it very much resonated with Natalie's journey, kind of her self-discovery and where her hopes for the future. So that was that was the origin behind the title.
Once again, listen on Refocused Radio and talking to our guest today, Denise. Make sure you go and get a copy of her book, Among the Stars, on Amazon, anywhere you can get a book online. My next question for you is, readers, they will tell the author in the world what they actually think, completely straightforward with the book. So for those who really love books about romance and mystery, what do you hope that they will appreciate from your style of writing, and also just the way you were able to craft the storyline with the characters?
I hope that the story can give them hope, even if, especially as I guess we all go through some peaks and valleys in our life, and especially for those who are going through a valley situation where they're having a hard time moving forward, that I would hope that they can have hope for their future and know that they can forgive themselves. And that's something I try to illustrate through the book. I know right now there's actually a rise in cases of depression and anxiety in our world, and it's been a very challenging time. And so I just want to encourage people, and even myself, to never give up, to always strive for look for those silver linings out there, because they are. We just sometimes have to roll up our sleeves and look for them. And I also want to leave readers with essentially a positive also positive themes with when it comes to humor and nostalgia. I think it's always those bring a smile to my face, and I want to also kind of celebrate kind of like celebrating the past experience I've had with my brother. Being able to look back on those, I would hope that other people and other readers could also look back on their cherished memories with their family and friends, because time is our only non-renewable. Sorry, I'm not saying that properly. Is not a renewable resource. I'm sorry. We can never get time back, and so that is the important thing to remember. Is that we want to cherish the time that we do have with other people and the times that we do have with them. Appreciate that.
You said earlier in the interview how your brother, just having him way to this book, not just honoring him, but just creating a sense of, from what I feel, is a sense of healing and gratitude. And I mean, that's what love does, right? It kind of shows us the right North Star to as a reminder of the beauty of life and how we can take on life. With that said, why is it so important for writers like yourself to just have that ability to be personal? Because a lot of times we can get kind of caught up in like, oh, I should write about this because it's popular, it's trending, and this kind of stuff will sell. Is it a little bit bold to say, you know what, I want to do something that's actually in alignment with what I believe versus what might be trending?
Yeah, for me, I kind of started out writing the book. Basically, it was the kind of book that I would want to pick up on a bookshelf. That was the intention I had in mind in the beginning, because I was kind of at an impasse where I wasn't quite finding the types of books that I was wanting to read, and so then I thought, why not write it? Why not be the one to start writing that genre that I want to see more of? And so for me, that definitely was a motivator behind the plot and the character development. And so I would encourage any other writers to just write for yourself first and foremost. Just essentially be selfish in the beginning. Just write the kind of book that you would want to see or read. And after that, you can always change it later or edit as needed for your target audience or your genre. But in the beginning, I would not think about that because that can be distracting. And I think it's important to write the kind of the story, the vision that you have in your mind initially.
And let's double down on that. When you think about the process of marketing after you get it done, or step back a little bit more, when you look at finding editor, publisher that will be in line with your overall vision of your goal, of what you want to put out in the world, what was that process like to get with the publisher or editor to not tear your dream apart, where it kind of disrupts your focus of what you want to put out there, but also find that balance of understanding, they have their expertise. There's a way that we can make this nice and polished before we put it out there in the world.
So I'm very thankful for my publishing team that helped me to basically have this dream come true of mine. Because growing up, I'd always wanted to write a book. That was a dream I had when I was little. I would often write little stories for myself and basically stapling pieces of paper together when I was little. But I never really did anything with that dream until just the past year and a half when I began writing this book. And so my publishing team was very supportive of this dream of mine and was very helpful along the way with all the steps that I had to take to publication, because I'm very new at this. Obviously, this being my first book, there was a lot to learn. And so I think it was a very, very positive experience, and I'm definitely looking forward to writing again in the future.
And speaking of learning, when you look at after his book has been published and is out there, the next hardest phase, I've been fortunate to interview a lot of authors, and they kind of say a similar thing. The biggest challenge is now you got to market this guy. You got to put the book out there. You got to let people know it's out. You got to, just keep retelling the story of why you wrote it. When you look at the marketing perspective, what's some of the things that you've been able to learn recently, the process of just not just having it out, but now you have the opportunity to really get more awareness, because it's not easy. It's an easy thought to have, but it comes more than a post online. It's a little bit more deeper than that.
So I definitely have been appreciative of my family and friends who have supported me in this beginning process of releasing the book and sharing it with the world. They have definitely been a great support, recommending the story and sharing it with other people that they know. I definitely would lean on I guess family and friends are a very important part of the marketing process. And so I definitely want them to know that I do not take them for granted. And especially my close friends who were actually my beta readers, they were a great support in the beginning when I was just writing my first draft and wasn't sure where it was going to go from there. They gave me a lot of good pieces of advice that I've actually used in the final draft. So family and friends are a great part of this journey.
So it sounds like you're being resourceful. You're using what you have available and building from there. Now that you have that experience underneath your belt, someone who is watching or listening to this interview and say they're a newcomer to get their first book published, later in whenever that time is, based on what you've been able to learn with your recent experience, what's some advice you would give to new authors out there who might be scared to publish their works? And if you had a pain point that you want to address, what would that be?
So I would definitely recommend just beginning to write and just writing for yourself, and just even if you're not sure where the story is going to go or what genre or what it's going to look like in the end, that just at least writing for yourself, just to start, I think I guess that's the best way to start. And just to not be afraid, because I honestly wasn't sure that I was going to keep going. In the past, when I had written books for myself, just for fun, I usually hadn't gotten past the 25% mark. I usually couldn't get past that. And so with this book, I allowed myself to write, and I actually got past the 25% mark, and I just allowed my thoughts, or continued to write my thoughts as they came up to me, and just allowed myself that freedom just to write it on paper. So I think that would recommend that for other writers as well.
How excited are you as we wrap up the show? How excited are you to be in a position to not just put yourself out there on different multimedia platforms? How excited are you to be able to enjoy the process now? You just get to brag about what you're doing. I mean, how does that feel? Because we know that it takes a lot of commitment to show up and push your books and your projects out, and not everybody lives up to that. So what has been your secret sauce to be committed with the process of putting yourself out there?
I think just remembering my initial, I guess, goal for the story, just to remember, like, why am I wanting to write it, and just not giving up, and remembering that it's not a source of income, even though there is income to be made with writing, but that is not the initial goal of mine. My goal is to share stories and to have stories be a way to connect people together, because we all, as people, we all go through emotion. We've gone through loss. We've gone through celebrating love or celebrating friendships, and so I want to kind of share our basically celebrate those similarities between us as people and connect us together through storytelling. And I think it's a very powerful way to bring us together.
Once again, listening to us and watching us online on Refocused Radio, talking to our guest today, Denise, author of Among the Stars. I want to say, like always, appreciate what you've been able to contribute in the writer world. If you had anything else you want to share our audience, maybe you have some book signing events in the future or something, what's some ways that they can keep tabs on you online?
So I do have a Facebook page and LinkedIn account, as well as through my publisher, Morgan Pierce Media Publishing. I have a personal page on their website. And so I am looking to write more stories in the future and more books. And so as it becomes more available, or when that becomes ready, then I will let everyone know about that as well. And the books itself is, as you mentioned, on Amazon as well as in the bookstores. And I'm looking to do some book signings in my local area in northern Idaho.
Well, once again, Denise, I want to say to you, thank you for your time.
All right, thank you so much.